All right, man.
What's up,
We're
dude?
here. What's good, bro? What is good, man? How are you feeling today?
Man, I got like 10 hours of sleep last night. It's first time in a while, bro. This is like I went to bed at 8 o'clock, man. That never happens. And feeling rejuvenated and ready to hit it, man. I don't
Hey,
need I don't need days of touching grass, bro. I need like 6 hours of touching grass, and then I'm good to go.
you were pretty quiet on the Emblem comms yesterday. It was like Adam is finally getting some rest. He's not
Yeah,
spending.
it wasn't that. It's like, when you're so addicted to the social media and like your phone, it's like for me, it's like I have to like somehow get away from it a little bit, and then I'm usually good to go. I don't need the full away time, but it's all good, man. Couple hours of sleep and I'm back, man.
It's all good, man, dude. There's a lot of stuff's been happening this week. For once, if you're watching this, there's no Bitcoin punks in the top sales. There's actually some crazy sales this week on Emblem Vault. The top one being something I'd never heard of. Honestly, I thought it was a potential. People were claiming it's a wash trade.
Sure.
This Twitter account claims that they had bought it. It was called the number one Ordinal pill. I feel like there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Adam, are you familiar with this project? I mean, we're around Ordinal project all day.
No, I mean, you wonder how much of this is, just simply that people just trying to create hype around their project, right? And so it's certainly that, at first blush, that's what it appears to be, right? Which is just that these guys are trying to create any sort of momentum for their project at all that they can get. And this is a strategy. I mean, we've seen it all over the place, right? And I often wonder, I was on a call earlier today discussing a project and their strategy and stuff. And like, you wonder how much of these huge projects like Moonbirds or whatever, well, how much is this kind of wash trading stuff just to generate interest and excitement? And, I have very little question that that's what was going on here.
Interesting, to say the least. Something that caught me by surprise, but a smart move. A full set of curio cards sold for 80 ETH using Emblem Vault. I want to dissect this a little bit because some users were wondering why use Emblem Vault from a handful of directions. Some say, why use it? Why use a centralized solution when you can be trustless? Why spend time to send them all to one address? What is the point? What did you take from this?
Well, I mean, for me, it always gets back to like ease of use, right? And people, especially hardcore Bitcoin maxis, they forget all about this, right? This is like, in the world of regular real world business and stuff, like ease of use is super important for people. And for a collector to just be able to go to one spot, OpenSea, they can trust it, they can check everything, and just be able to hit buy. From a collector standpoint, most people, that's the way most people want to work. Even people who are very familiar with it. They don't want to have to like interface with a contract or any of this stuff, right? They just want it in the most easy and simple way possible. And I just know, like, I've done a bunch of these and help people transact a bunch of ones like this, where let's just do it through OpenSea because you can trust it. It's going to be easy. We get the address of the buyer, and you plug that in, and it's 1, 2, 3 simple. And so. Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I understand. Oh, we can do it in a trustless way. For most people, this is a trustless solution, as easy as it can get, because they can immediately unvault the assets if they want, and get them back on ETH and not have them in the Emblem Vault from a trustless solution. It takes 5 minutes to do that, and so that's just it. It just is easy to do, and I think that at the core is what it's all about. It's just ease.
Yeah, absolutely. The price of it, 80 ETH, absolute pico bottom of curio cards. I mean, they sold for 1.2 million at Christie's about 18 months ago.
Yeah.
I know you had been trying to broker a lot of these deals. You've been kind of this, pseudo broker. Oliver, Zero G. There's a handful of people in the historical NFT space who are well connected. Is this above or below what you've seen behind the scenes?
Oh, definitely below. Like, and a lot of people are like, well, are we going to even go lower? It's possible, of course, certainly the seller, I'm sure, was a little bit bummed out about the price for sure. Who wouldn't be, right? When you could have probably sold these for 200 some odd ETH when ETH was ripping, right? And so you definitely you got, heard on that. But look, this is somebody who got these at mint, right? These are who got these at the rediscovery. So it was, or slightly after. It wasn't like, he took a loss. This is a win regardless. But certainly, he wasn't psyched about it, but those are the breaks, and he understands. He's a whale who sold this. So it wasn't like, this wasn't life ending or whatever. He just wanted to cycle in new stuff. And we all know who he is. And so it's, it's part of the game, and he's a huge collector. It's not like, curios are the entire bit of his net worth. Curios a small percentage of what this guy has. He's a huge trader, has lots of incredible historical NFTs.
Yeah, that seller has been on an absolute tear this bear run, dude. He was ahead of one of the big rediscoveries that it posted. He's the one who wrote the manual for the Bitcoin punks, which kind of onboarded us to just a slew of work over the last month, I should say. Which
Crypto Obi-Wan, for those who don't know him, you should go follow him on Twitter. He's very active, actually, even in new mints and new artists. He's all over the place and very integrated with the Lost Robbies. I don't know if he still has Lost Robbies, but at times he's had Lost Robbies. He's just a huge collector all across the space. And so, him selling isn't necessarily anything other than, he cycles in and out of stuff all the time, man. And I have no idea, he's a big brain when it comes to this stuff. And, he does what he does. He'll tell you himself, like, look, some are winners, some are losers. You never know. You just play it the best you can. And I think that's what he was doing here with those curios. And I know he still holds a lot of curios.
Yeah, absolutely. X Jam Master on YouTube says, any update on curated rare pet base? Yes, we'll cover that a little bit later in the show. Also, if anyone's in the crowd who would like to join the stage, come join us. We're missing 3 people that are regular here who are off venturing into their own world.
Touching grass, baby. Touching grass.
Yeah, hopefully ass, apparently, from what they said. Oh my God. Yeah. So I'm gonna let, there's a few people who are gonna want to come up. So welcome anybody. Get a little bit of a smaller show, but a lot of fun. Yeah. Speaking of Lost Robbies, there was one that just sold recently for, I think, 250 ETH or something, to like a big collector. Do you remember who it sold to?
It's Mr. 703?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Mr. 703, and Jake, you probably know more about him than I do, but I do know he's a huge historic NFT collector. And it's interesting, the Lost Robbies. Obviously, I have my story behind the Lost Robbies, where it consumed my life for a solid week during all these rediscoveries. And it's a fun part of my history. So I always track, who has the Lost Robbies and that sort of stuff. And it's one of those, for me, Lost Robbies is a grail for sure. First of all, super low count. We're in like the mid 30s of total known pieces right now. It could go up, but certainly super low scarcity. Has the IRL artist behind it, who's relatively famous in real life artist, who no longer is into NFTs, actually hates NFTs, which just creates a super cool dynamic where this guy's probably never going to make more NFTs. So it's one of these, like I've recommended to people, like when they're like, what should I buy? I have, some money and I want to buy a historic NFT. What's the ones to get? And Lost Robbies is always on my list because it ticks so many boxes beyond just NFTs. It ticks it into in real life art and got a great story behind it. So no surprise that Lost Robbies would be one that he would target.
The early AI art NFTs created in the mid 2018. So there's some unique stories about that. But I want to touch about Mr. 703 because he actually had popped up recently.
Yeah, I think you got him to jump off Twitter after.
Yeah, right. Probably called him out. It's so
Poor
funny.
guy. He's like, I want to come back on Twitter, and Jake was like, "Yo, Mr. 703's back," and he was like, "Okay, I'm out again."
Hey, that Twitter space that he was in though had over 500 people inside of it. It was kind of cool though. From being a team member at Emblem Vault, he created an account specifically to come do an interview with a group I was not familiar with. And in his bio, he tagged Emblem Vault because he's been very early to a lot of different things. The reason why he's called Mr. 703 is because he claimed 703 CryptoPunks. That's the name behind him. But he was very early to CryptoPunks, to like CryptoKitties and Emblem Vault, and he tagged Emblem Vault, now seeing like a larger amount of success since probably last time he was here. He was the first person to ever vault a rare Pepe, first person to vault a counterparty asset and sell it. And so you could essentially say that he spurred that whole rare Pepe bull run. Which, looking at it, I have the OpenSea activity chart from the September 2021 comparative to the Bitcoin Punks and Ordinals run. Trounces it. It's like 4 times the size. That was such a legendary run with the rare Pepes. Dude, we were seeing 6-figure sales like regularly.
I look back on that OpenSea, page, and it's like one day there was, I want to say like 6,000 ETH in sales. I'm like,
yeah, I have it pulled up right here. So 6,974 ETH in one day. 3,000 sales. 3,000 sales. Compare that to the largest spike recently, which was February 12th, 2,671 sales for 1,829 ETH. So literally like 3 times the size, almost 4 times the size of what it was. What a crazy magical day that was. I do want to say
it's actually really cool to think about how ahead of the game that guy is, right? To think about, well, not only claiming punks, which I mean, a lot of people did, depending on if they saw that article or not. But being able to hold those to the point where you actually made some, life-changing wealth off of those, and then, cycle through and then actually understand what Emblem Vault was and that opportunity, which, looking back now, it's obvious and clear, but wasn't clear back then that he had that vision. I mean, we didn't, the people in Emblem Vault didn't even really see it, right? That he saw it and moved forward with it. It's pretty impressive. I'd like to meet this guy.
Makes me wonder if he was the one that sold the wrapped punks recently. So I don't know if you know this trend that's happening right now. You know how there's all the blur farming that's been happening recently? Yeah. The punks OTC guy started a movement where they're taking the punks and wrapping them and then trading them on blur, because first, now you get price discoverability, but also you can now make some money farming some tokens. One of the 2017 holders wrapped 27 of them and just sold them instantly into the bid wall, made like $2.4 million instantly. Makes me wonder if that was him, because then literally a day later, he comes back and he pays 250 ETH for this lost Robbie. It could be him. He also still owns all those V1s as well. So
amazing,
just lucky to be
Mr.
him.
703. If you want to drop some V1s in my wallet, feel free. AdamMcBride.e.
Yeah, I remember during the Rare Pepe bull run, Daniel Got Hits was like being he was kind of how I understood Rare Pepe, as he was doing a bunch of videos and stuff, and Mr. 703 donated him like a 1 of 10 card and like a 1 of 5 card, just like a bunch. I'm like, this guy just donated him like $100,000 just for sharing information. What a awesome, beautiful time. Mafiko, haven't had you co-hosted for a little while, man. Good morning, or it might be afternoon where you're at. I don't even know.
Yo. Good morning. Yeah, 2 a.m. here. But yeah, I'm doing good. It's good to be back.
GM. Lasagna Fun, man. How's it going, bro? Your Mooncat collection is getting quite exquisite.
Oh, why, thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite cryptographic proofs to collect. It's got a lot of colors coming with it, and it's kind of cool to see all the stuff coming out this week for the rediscovery. And I was happy to hear you guys having one of your regular shows here with all my favorite historians and timelinists and relic hunters, and yeah, it's good to hear from you all.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. We did just celebrate the Mooncat rediscovery. Today's the 15th or 16th? I don't even know what day it is. So on the 12th, celebrated the rediscovery. I couldn't make that Twitter Spaces. But man, dude, just reflecting on 2 years of NFT archaeology, the craziness. Still, we've all validated it internally as the space continues to grow. There's still many people outside of it who invalidate it. And it's, to me, just showing that this is going to exist forever. We hold this glue together, no matter how big or how small it is. And I think now seeing just the complete capitulation of PFPs.
Why am I laughing? Let's not dance on people's graves, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. Look, we all knew it was going to happen. It's just a matter of, it's honestly, it's incredible it's taken so long to a large extent, right? But the use cases of NFTs is only growing, right? And that's the beauty of what's happened with Ordinals, is we see a larger vision with NFTs, and we all get it. Being in the historic NFT community, we understand it. But it is fun to celebrate. And honestly, I feel bad that I didn't pay enough attention. I've just been so overwhelmed, but didn't pay enough attention to the Rediscovery Week. I think I made only a couple tweets about Mooncats and the Rediscovery, and but didn't really celebrate Curio and Etheria and Crypto Cats, even though they've completely vanished off the radar. But it is, I think somebody tweeted out March is historic NFT month. That's absolutely right. And I think celebrating that, and Mooncats is obviously a huge part of it. Next year it will definitely be more on my radar to put time in for it. But yeah, it's an awesome time, man.
Yeah, we got some OGs in the crowd. If you guys want to come up and celebrate historic NFT month and chat, more than welcome to. XC Pinata, we got Dan, we got Griffin's Big Collector, Nifty Universe. If any of you guys want to come in, the devout community members and creators, man. Some of you guys, still need to talk to at some point in time here.
Yeah, I mean, it's I know we get, Jake, you and I have gotten a lot of pushback over the last almost 2 months now with Ordinals, what happened to historic NFTs? But it's like we have to be building and encourage this building of the Web3 we all envision for our historic NFT bags to be worth anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has to happen. And I'm in chats right now talking about wallets and wallet security and stuff, and it's like, dude, if we need to, we need to get it, the space needs to get so much better, and to really move to this first billion users, it needs to get way better. And so encouraging this growth of Web3, I think, is a super important part, and it's important for us as historic NFT collectors to support that growth, because without it, our bags are worthless, right? We have to build this kind of future we all envision.
Yeah, let me throw a question. Lasagna, you got something to say?
Part of why I love the historic community is because there's so much innovation just out of necessity. It's just we've done so much groundwork, and there's always so much more to build to make everything work better. And I think part of the Mooncat rediscovery was not just looking back at the prior 6 years of the 4 years of minting before rediscovery, but just how far have we come in the past 2 years? How much new stuff do we have built? How many wrappers and different token features and stuff have been created? Even with Emblem Vault stuff too. I'm very curious to see what you guys cook up for the curated collections, because I think that's kind of where a lot of this interoperability and playing around with the technology and learning it is really going to come into full force.
Yeah, the curated collections, and I want to save it for a little bit later in the conversation. There's a lot of things happening with that, and actually some people who've reached out are ETH natives about curated collections. So if I kind of spark some interest there, there's actually a really cool collab that is going to be shared within a few hours from somebody's spaces from a big NFT artist. So I'll refrain from saying that until that is public. But I did want to ask Mafiko a question about ordinals and historical NFTs. I was actually proposed this question in my reply somewhere. I forget who the user was, but they asked, why are historical NFT people so fond of ordinals? Why has there been such a big migration of creators that are counterparty natives to the historians to just collectors? Why is it that the historical NFT community has found such an interest in ordinals, Mafiko?
Yeah, great question, Jake. And I've been doing, for those of you who don't know, I'm currently doing an academic research project on hype and NFTs at the moment. So I've been speaking with a lot of different people, And one of the consistent things that keeps coming up is with the historical community is this the preservation of metadata. It seems it's just such an important aspect for historical NFT collectors compared to any other community. And so when I think about ordinals, and I haven't asked many people specifically about ordinals, but my sense is that it's the permanence of what you can do with ordinals. The fact that, you know, once you inscribe something, it's there, it's locked in, and it preserves that what the creator had in mind, and a certain permanence there, and the preservation and locking in of history, I think, is what historical NFT collectors really like. Obviously, a lot of I think about mainstream collections, and I think Checks is a good one at the moment, is that, you know, like Jack Butcher's changing that metadata every week, and it makes sense because what he's trying to do is a different game of play, and, you know, he's trying to generate attention consistently, and he's doing a really good job with that. And, you know, you'll see the metadata change based on like what's going on Twitter and different things, which is great, but it's a different kind of space. And so I think the changing of metadata, my sense is ETH in particular, if you want to change the metadata, the types of projects you're engaging in, it's like, yeah, if you want to continue to generate attention and different things. But ordinals, I mean, yeah, once it's inscribed, it's up there. And I think, yeah, historical, and it'd be really good to hear from XCP Pinata what he thinks as well. But yeah, that's my sense, Jake.
Yeah, XCP's been crushing it, man. You're early to the game, so I'm really happy for your success. If you'd like to come up at any time, let me know, and we can chat about it, dude. My response to that was that historical NFT community is already native to Bitcoin, so it was much easier for us to migrate over or to even understand and comprehend what's going on. We're very familiar with running nodes, and the community of the historical NFT people extends from the OGs who were the creators to those who were even before NFTs became into existence, to those who excuse me, I've learned over the last 2 years about being cross-chain and working with proof of work chains, right? It's a completely different concept from working on EVM compatible chains and proof of stake and things like that. We did bring up XCP Pinata, man, dude. First, I want to say congratulations. I haven't been able to talk to you since some of your big sales and some of the projects that you've been building on, man. Dude, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I could kind of give you a little bit of perspective from, at least from my eyes, what's been going on with ordinals, and it does start with the permanence, right? The immutability. I know I actually kind of had a head start. I met Casey in the Bitcoin 22 conference, and he was there, and we chatted a bit about ordinals. At the time, he was working on ordinal theory and the sats. He wasn't doing inscriptions yet, but while we were talking, I made sure to tell him that one of the big things that I think that artists really want is to be able to put their work permanently on chain. At least for me, coming from the crypto side, that was kind of one of the main reasons of doing crypto art, is to try to create something that could last longer than ourselves and create that immutability. And when Ordinal was launched and Casey sent me a message saying that it was out, I was like, oh my God, I got to do this. And it had a little bit of a technical issue, just because downloading the full node and getting it set up for the Taproot address, I personally did not have that skill set. So I reached out to Nick over at he's the Luxor CEO. He's very, very receptive, very good, and he helped me do my inscriptions. So I was able to get them pretty early, which was great. And I just had a collection of art just waiting to be inscribed. So actually, I think I had like 160 pieces, but I curated down to 111 and just had them ready to go, and sent them over to Nick, and the rest is history. We got them out, and they did really well, which was great. So,
Pinata, can you at least tell those, or explain to the crowd, for those who aren't familiar with you, just touch a little bit on your 2015 Counterparty project, and then what you've done differently over on Ordinals?
Yeah, so Counterparty, I started in 2014, and then 2015 I created some tokens that I then used with the theme of the token is the art, and I added those images in 2021 to a lot of them. Although I've been in the crypto art space before that with my earlier Scarab experiment project, which is still happening, by the way. It's still ongoing, slowly but surely. Talking to some folks at some big auction houses about that, but that's kind of under wraps and just kind of making slow progress there. For now, though, I'm just focusing on my Ordinal project and the trying to use that to also bring light to the counterparty aspect and the great history that we have there, because the history for that's not going to change, right? That's always going to be there, even though Ordinals is basically, in my mind, it's kind of like Counterparty 2.0. It's what Counterparty would have been like had it been released now and not 2014 in a lot of ways. So it's been something else to see everybody coming together to work on chain.
Yeah, there's actually been a huge confluence of the counterparty users using ordinals in a variety of ways. You saw Joe Looney create I forget what the website's called, where you basically can just store your counterparty data for the token on ordinals. And he's also put out some pretty cool thought pieces of ordinal envelopes. It was like a really fascinating idea that I found. I'm glad to see the two Bitcoin communities working together instead of being very antagonistic, which has kind of been the trend over the last few years.
Totally. I think to some degree, the Bitcoin maxis, including Casey himself, have pushed back against counterparty, but I applaud our counterparty friends who were very receptive to it, especially Joe. And, just to understand this is a new technology and how do we use it to our advantage. And I think it's been really cool to see that acceptance from the counterparty community.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of things underway. I guess this perfectly leads into curated collections, which everyone is wondering. I guess the big question everyone's wondering is it ever going to happen? When? Right? It's been something that Shannon's been working on for literally over a year. And then we restarted it once we joined onto the team. And we're really ready to get it going. And then ordinals happened. And as we've come along, right, we've found kind of all these different cracks within the Emblem Vault system that we need to optimize. And I put this tweet out yesterday, which I'll pin once I'm done talking, about the idea that now that we're moving on to curated collections, our ordinal foundation from an infrastructure perspective is pretty solid. I don't think there's too much more to do out of that outside of like curation and marketing. Of course, though, something could always pop up. So as we move to curated collections, and this is kind of the future of what Emblem Vault is giving every collection its own individual smart contract so that we can provide the requirements and then the requests of every collection, because they're all different, whether you're on Counterparty or Namecoin or Doge Party or whatever, Emmercoin or whatever the future collections, ETH, right? Whatever the future collections are to come, we want to hope to satisfy that. And so the big thing we've found over the last month or two is just these huge friction points within the vaulting and unvaulting collection. It's very similar to Amazon's approach of like one-click shopping. And that's kind of what we want to get down to as well, is reducing the amount of clicks from vaulting to even unvaulting. So curated collections itself, because first it reduces a lot of risk where you basically drop down. We'll use Pepe's, for example, because they're going to be the first one. You can drop down, and when you create a vault, there's a selection of 1,774 different tokens. And when you choose it, it already populates the description, the name, and the image. So that already is reducing 3 clicks right there, or 4, depending on how you classify it. And then it saves on security, because once you choose that vault, you can't vault it until that asset is inside the vault. So now you're eliminating fraud. I don't know. I can't definitely say 100% because I don't know what people are going to do to try to bypass it.
They'll try everything, right? But yeah, the odds of them being able to fake a counterparty asset is pretty low.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we've
Hopefully
even touched
zero. We won't say 0, but because these guys are freaking smart. but hopefully 0-0.
Yeah, it's a game of whack-a-mole. I mean, we tested divisible tokens, we tested putting other assets in there, so we've really tested it. And so once you get that populated, it's good, right? And then we've been able to address a few other friction points. I won't say all of them because we want some of these tools to kind of be a surprise. But one that we've actively discussed is bulk minting, right? If you own, right, we have the Bitcoins creator in here. If you own a large supply of Bitcoins, you want to that are all the same asset, you want to be able to mint 50 of them at the same time, right? It's going to save you literally hours. I had to I minted 84 vaults for these like sub 1,000 Litecoin ordinals. It legit took me almost 6
gone,
hours.
bro. That day is gone.
It took me almost
that day back, man.
It took me almost the entire day to do it, dude. It's excruciatingly painful. So now being able to do that, dude, right? Now you're just saving exponentially amount of time. And then the unvaulting process is something we're addressing, right? The purchasing process is one of them. I think there was one or two others. So we're actively addressing that on the go. But we do also acknowledge, right, that time is a necessity, and people are just like, can you just get the fucking thing out there already? Right? So we finally started working on it. I think 2 days ago. Shannon was excited. He said, "Oh my God, Curated's finally to the top of my list out of all the bugs that have finally happened."
Yeah,
you know,
I think in a lot of ways, the Ordinals actually, just allowed us to these kind of pain points or extra clicks, or it helped us, define them in just this amazing way because we were just getting bombarded, right? And so I think it's going to be a much better rollout of the curated collections, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm excited. There was the interesting question, I think Phantom Scribbler tweeted, which is very warranted, right? The idea of the centralization and the closed source nature of Emblem Vault. And a bunch of users, acknowledge that they've never used it because they don't want to store. And yeah, I completely agree with them, right? And we've addressed that. We've had many open source, quote unquote, decentralized conversations of what even a decentralized Emblem Vault even means. Those people ask for it, and then you ask them like what they can do, and they're just like, open source the technology. Like, that's not going to do. That's literally not going to help, right? Like, right? They're like, we can fork it, and you're like, okay, well, how do you fork a project that has an asset from 15 different blockchains inside of it? You can't duplicate that, So there's a lot of different technical complexities to it. But some of the openly things that we've discussed is, right, you can take Koval and turn it into a DAO. But if you look at DAO infrastructure and DAO delegated voting, it's not been good across the space. It's definitely not led to a lot of good decisions. Actually, led to a lot of lost funds more than anything. Spinning up nodes to verify vault verification, I think, is like a pretty good idea. A little bit over my head of the complexity of that. That's why I'm glad I have Shannon and Eric that's in the crowd to kind of help with that. There's some other ideas that we've kind of thrown out there. So if anyone has any ideas, dude, we are fully down to listen to it. But we have to get the system just battle tested, I guess.
Yeah, number one, security above and beyond everything else. Like we all say, oh, open source, great. But the thing's got to be secure. And so when you're dealing with private keys and stuff, I mean, it's beyond me, but how you would do that and be open source and still secure, there are lots of complexities here. It's certainly not going to be flip a switch.
Yeah. So I guess to spin it all up together, Curated is coming. We have about, I think, quote unquote, don't shoot me, 20 to 30 hours of dev work to build the front end. The smart contracts are done, essentially, right? And they've actually been deployed. So if you go look around, you can probably find them. But we have to rebuild some of the front end for it. And then once that happens, we're doing the soft launch where we're going to be where we're reaching out to, or even accepting a bunch of people who have a bunch of XCP tokens who've been kind of waiting for the curated collection, right? Because you could bulk mint and stuff like that. And we'll probably have some sort of like Koval refund or something like that, to where we want to have the largest selection of Pepes for the world to see. One of our, I wouldn't say it's a fear concerns, is that, you send the ETH degens to the rare Pepe page, and they'll only land on 20 of them, and they're just like become very uninterested. So we were trying to get like a full variety The goal is to have at least 400 different tokens there to when it finally goes public. Those degens have either something to ape into or something to even look at, because they don't want to leave the OpenSea page, right? Even you can say, hey, go to pepe.wtf. They just don't want to do it. They just do not. You have to meet them where they are. And that's something that Adam advocates a lot.
Sure, absolutely. Meeting people where they are is a huge deal. I'm a big proponent of that because I just see that that's the way most humans work. Yeah, there are the random devs who, don't work that way, but for regular people, right? We want to just. I was literally having a discussion today in a group chat where people are talking about security, and like I think the other day we're like, I'm the security maxi, absolutely. But the guy's like, well, how do you verify? A question came up. We were talking about Ledger. And he's like, well, how are you verifying the software? What process are you using to verify the software? And I'm like, bro, you've already lost me, man. And if you've lost me, you've lost 95% of users. Like, you can't ask people to do that, dude. Like, using a Ledger has to be enough, right? You have to meet people there. If you have 2 or 3 or 5 steps, it's just not going to work, right? You have to make stuff simple for the average user. And I think that's what is super exciting about Pepe's, because Pepe's in pre-Emblem Vault, you had to go kind of down this path to get in that world, right? Emblem Vault opened it to new people, and I think the curated collection is just going to open it to another group of people, and that's awesome, man. I'm pumped.
That's what we're most excited for. We've had some ETH collections reach out to us about using curated because they're a pre-2023 collection, so they've lost their ability to get royalties. And so through this, they can just regenerate their royalties. Of course, you have that same issue, which is very similar to the historical community of taking a ERC20 and wrapping it, right? Or the same thing of taking a counterparty and vaulting it. You still have the same thing there. So you have to offer incentives. And that's the conversation we've had many times of, you're going to have to offer incentives to get people to migrate. And they're like, well, what kind of incentives? I'm like, well, that's up to you, right? Like, you can offer financial, social. There's a lot of different ways to get people or to attract people to move.
It does offer, though, somewhere for people to point people, right? I think that's actually, we maybe discount that a little bit. But when we're all on Twitter or whatever talking about, a certain collection or a certain sale, it's great to just be able to, for that person, when they click that link, they're taken to the Rare Pepe page, right? Like that alone is huge, right? That the potential buyer lands on one spot, and it's like it makes sense to them. I think that alone is just massive.
Yeah, I'm excited. Dogfather, glad you joined us as our counterparty and Doge Party specialist, man. I'm curious your opinions on curated. We've shared a lot, but if you have anything else that's caught your mind over the last few weeks that you'd like to discuss.
Hey, what's good? Sorry for being late. Somehow I always mix up the times.
Bro, I mixed up the times too. This one got me too because the US reset their clocks or whatever. I'm like, what time? Jake had to ping me, man.
Yeah, no problem. So I think this will likely be a big game changer because also it's simpler, it's safer, there's more liquidity. So it's like everyone who likes the curio card look and feel, it's way easier to have a Dune dashboard, everything is easier once you have one contract for one collection. It's a whole world of different thing. If you want to build something, all kind of like dashboards and websites, that's way easier. So it's such a struggle to get some data out of the, mixed collections from Emblem Vault. So this is why typically I do my research just basically using counterparty or Doge party data, because it's kind of a mess to get that, out of Emblem Vault at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a new metric that I want to create, but we're going to have to wait until we get these curated collections. Last bear market, the DeFi, they created a metric called TVL, total value locked. And they're still running with it. I don't know whether I still to this day am uncertain if that's even like a logical method to use. But I said for Emblem Vault, once we get curated, we could create TVV, total value vaulted, right? And we'll run with it, and we'll see if the VCs and the hedge funds and all the quant guys like that metric, because we'll be able to do it because they all have individual smart contracts.
Dude, when it reaches like $1 billion in TVV, that's when we know we've made it, man.
I'm excited, man, dude. So first,
I would
Lasagna.
say that if you're gonna look for like more commercial usage of Emblem Vault, something to probably talk to is some of these older exchanges with assets that are a little harder to manage for them, or even some defunct exchanges are gonna have a lot of old pieces of little cryptographic gold that they're gonna have to have something to issue out, and they might as well be the one issuing it as like a law firm or whatever, doing what's it called, the final payout of things. Like I know
Give
Cryptopia.
an example. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. Can you give an example of that?
Yeah. So like Cryptopia, right now they're trying to sort out who owns what, and like some of these are like old chains that are dead, and other ones are like it's all fungible stuff. But at the same point, I feel like there is some use there for Emblem Vault kind of tech, and if they're the ones who are going to be like issuing these files or whatever, because the same thing happened with Cryptsy. Cryptsy was an old exchange, and a bunch of the wallet files all got like sold off to like one individual who then like distributed it to a couple different devs and stuff. But like that process could be way more trustless and issued by the law firm who's doing it if they had like an Emblem tech stack or whatever to like issue it themselves. So like they could just rely even of assets, and like some of them kind of still work and could be wrapped in a vault in theory. So that's kind of what I always thought would be a good use for it.
Commercial use, that would be gold.
If that makes any sense. I don't know enough about Emblem's tech stack to really make a call on it, but it's like if you guys like white label the product, that to me could be a really cool like usage for businesses and other projects to start issuing vaults on their own too.
Interesting.
Yeah, vaulting as a service is something I discuss a lot. I think a lot of NFT marketplaces will have this.
Did I leave you speechless? Or
Well, I think you're offering this like new use case that's Jake and I maybe haven't really thought about. We're so NFT focused. So it's kind of almost the first time I'm hearing about something like this.
Hello, did I connect?
Yeah, I think we lost you maybe.
Lasagna, yeah, you might be rugging, but we heard you. We did hear you. I'm gonna mute him just in case.
Yeah, actually, I mean, just dude, if you know some people who might be interested in that, I'd love to have kind of exploratory conversations around that. And yeah, it could be something where we create a curated contract for specific use cases like that. I think would be really cool.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? So I saw a post today. A user, I forget what the project was called. They're taking assets from multiple chains and putting them in a vault, and then they're fractionalizing NFTs against it. I'll have to pin it to the top, but a lot of these, exploratory, experimental projects that use Emblem Vault, it really just pushes the space forward, whether they become successful or not. It's cool to really see, and it's always like one step above the other. I don't know if it's still in here. There was Ordinal Artifacts that was in here, was the first to fractionalize an Ordinal and then issue, I think like 10 or 20 tokens against it. Then you had the O-Doge, which took the Doge logo and then fractionalized it into meme coins and then burnt half the supply so it can never be claimed again. And now you have this person who's taking, I think it was one Dogenal, one Lite coin Ordinal and one Bitcoin Ordinal, and then putting it in a vault and fractionalizing it for 23 NFTs or something like that. So really, really cool, man. There's we've had people reach out to us about using SudoSwap for one-to-one redemptions of ETH to Bitcoin Ordinals, and there's all kinds of weird things that we haven't really explored. Speaking of exchanges, though, OKX actually did list Bitcoin Punks a few weeks ago on their NFT marketplace. I think that was the real first like big crypto exchange using Emblem Vault. I guess there's like a huge, I don't know if it's Chinese or Japanese, I think it's Chinese interest in Bitcoin punks. I don't know why, but I think you just never know in this space, man.
Never know. There are always these DeFi guys who, and I am definitely not a DeFi guy, but there are DeFi guys who love this like staking farming stuff. And whatever floats your boat, man. Whatever floats your boat. And obviously there's a big demand for it.
Dogfather's got his hand up. What you thinking over there?
No, I just wanted to let you know we crossed 500K inscriptions. Just want to, if you have a soundboard, can you make some noise? So I think that just happened in last block.
Is this? Yeah, let's go.
Woo, let's go. Welcome to the stage, Dan Anderson. He was the creator of Bitcoin Crops. What's good, bro? What's on your mind?
What's up, gang? I have just like practical questions. If a project wants to curate collection, what's the process going to be like for that?
Yeah. So right now we have a list of about 20 different collections that we're going to go. We have a submission form in our Discord that you can sign up for. I guess the real important question first is, does it exist in the legacy collection? Because those will get preferential treatment first, because we have to build a migration portal from the legacy vault to the curated vault, which is essentially like a 2-click switch where it just takes the asset, burns the legacy vault, and then puts it in the curated one. And I don't think it takes too much effort to just, change the name, but we have to figure out where we'll need information of like the JSON file, if it's on Counterparty or whatever chain that it's on. There's a few other things that have to be answered of like split royalties, and are there individual, and then with the royalties, is it to the founding team? Is it to the individual artists? So like with Rare Pepe's, we partnered up with Pepe.dbtf to verify all the addresses of fake rares and Rare Pepe so that the individual artists are getting a share of the royalties rather than it going to one pot. So that there's just like some questions, and we have all of that filled out in the submission form. And
where's your how do I find the Discord?
Here, I could pin it to the top, or I'll put it in the comments, or I'll send it to you right after. You could, if you go to emblem.pro, which is the website in the EV account, you just go to the bottom of the page and there's a link there. I don't think it's on the Twitter account.
Got it. I'm in.
Hell yeah. Are you doing this for Bitcoins or for your Ordinal project?
I would do it for the Bitcoin.
Yeah, we'd love to.
Collections.
Okay. Well, while I have you here, though, can you tell me a little bit about your Ordinal project? I was actually looking at it the other day, and I saw, because you captured my attention. You had a thread talking about just being very early to everything. And I saw you were doing. Yeah, saw you were
very
doing.
Early is often wrong, right, brother?
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit of what it is?
Yeah, I was just up in there like panic inscribing stuff like everyone else, and just big nerd. So collecting the E points, flexing on them in the sub 1K.
Hey, yeah, I believe it's called Dan Pills. It's pretty interesting. It's a lot of like retro images that are fitted for like the 80s and 90s. It's pretty cool, or at least the frames were. So yeah, I'm trying to learn more about a lot of these different Ordinal projects. There's a lot of ideas floating around there, and the ones that are a little bit more than images really spark my interest a little bit.
One of the things you mentioned earlier that I was thinking about was why are historical NFT people early or involved with Ordinals? And it kind of makes sense that people interested in with that perspective would be interested in Ordinals, because like if you have the opportunity to potentially make history or be involved with history in real time, why wouldn't you if you had like this interest in history?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of fudders against it, that they don't want to participate in low inscription numbers or things that are new. But I forget, there was a response in one of my replies. Somebody was kind of showing their opinion on it. And they're like, well, if this is a new protocol, back in 2014 with Counterparty, that was considered new, right? Or early with Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? Everyone, you got to experiment with it. and build. And that's kind of the framing now. I think that's how some people were perceiving it. Maybe the low inscription numbers did get a little bit out of control, or maybe there's a lot of validity to it. Who really knows?
Yeah, I was when I was inscribing my files, I was thinking this was like a 5-year plan. Maybe like I thought it was going to be like HNFTs, sort of like Redux, where like in 5 years people are like, oh, these files were inscribed. I did, but it was like right away. It was like immediately, which surprised me.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think there's just a lot more eyeballs this time around, right? While before, maybe with Counterparty, there's, handfuls of people who are interested in this, right? This time there's thousands of handfuls of people interested in it. So yeah, I think that's why it had that immediate kind of pop.
It's even making its way down. You still got the Litecoin Ordinal people. We got to help Litecoin punks. I fortunately got to inscribe some under 1K, which was kind of cool experience. I didn't do it. I had a dev do it, but I made the images, which was fun. And they're getting getting some progress there, whether they're valuable or not. Who really knows? They do have Wimble on there, so that's kind of a cool experiment to see. Eventually, you can have theoretically, I guess, private NFT transactions. So I don't know what you could do there. Probably some very cool ideas. Probably some more malicious things as well. And now Doginals, I believe the dev today announced that they announced their Doginals wallet. It's called the Wolf Wallet. The Wolf Wallet is live. I'm gonna have to look into it.
You can't make this stuff up, man.
He posted it right before this started. I believe his name's like Apezord or something like that. So be interested to follow. I believe somebody said there are over 100K inscriptions already. I know that there's a limitation there because obviously you don't have Segwit and Taproot. So you can only inscribe, I believe, it's like 1,600 kilobytes. So everything's like a little pixelated thing. And I believe some of the early movers to it inscribed a 10K collection in the first like 10K or 11,000.
The first 10K were all one project.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just one dude in his mom's basement doing this entire thing. But yeah,
that's why we can't have nice things. That was kind of like the whole idea of what ruined like Twitter eggs and some of these like Namecoin stuff is when a group of people went in and claimed like the majority of the stuff and kind of just like ruined the whole flow of the history and the relics for it. Really sucked.
Yeah. Kind of not learning from history. If you can't get enough people to buy in, it kind of just dies on the vine, right? You got to have this wide kind of dispersion. I think that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin Punks was so successful, right? Even though the guys who did it and kind of organized the whole thing maybe got 1,000 or 10% of the amount, still there was enough there for enough people to be interested and enough random people to be able to mint that it kind of was able to hit that tipping point of interest.
Yeah, the free stuff. I don't know if you saw this, but in the last 12 hours, there's been probably like 5 or 6 12-fold.
Incredible, man. Hey, those people are taking bats, right? The ones who inscribe or who got at mint are taking hits, right? At auction, sorry. They're taking hits. And so, hey, those are the whales taking baths. And so, it's in theory, this is what free market's supposed to do. Super interesting to see. I don't know. You tweeted about it, right? How much did they take? They took like a 12 ETH loss on each one of these.
Yeah. So the lowest bid was the equivalent. I put it all in Ethereum because it's native to Yuga, and those are the monkeys can only think in one in one denomination. So 37 ETH was about the lowest winning bid. And last night before I went to bed, there was a sale at 20 ETH and a sale at 25 ETH. And there was a sale at 29 and there's one at 34, and those were on OpenSea. And if I head over to Ordinal's market, which is again, quote, not owned by us, it's just a team who built on top of us, I believe there's been a few over there as well. I'm gonna check out and see. Let's see. So over here, there was one. There was the one that was the one that sold for 20. So we have 5 sales so far: 25.5, 20 ETH, 28.99, and 34. So all of them selling for a loss. And I believe there's about 15 to 20 that have been vaulted. My assumption is that we're going to see more of them migrate over, but the trading activity has been quite low, and we've been seeing all of the anti-Yuga Labs people coming in and immediately ready to FUD. It's quite interesting. Dogfather, I know you got a spicy take.
You were saying anti-Yuga and I was raising my hand. No, not at all. But, we had this interesting discussion also with Leo that, I was a bit skeptical about the auction mechanism because in my point of view, they were extracting a bit too much out of the collectors and promising that the low inscription numbers may be something worth paying, I don't know, 2x of the floor. And if you check out the sales, I don't see any discrimination in terms of inscription number. Those guys just want to get out. So for example, the 25.5 sale in ETH, that was inscription number 64, so relatively high. And this person paid 2.6 in the auction, so almost losing 1 Bitcoin on that. And if you take, for example, the 34 ETH sale, this was a high inscription, 144. So at the moment, we don't see much of a premium for lower inscriptions. Of course, it's just for sales. Most likely, these people are very impatient. Maybe they were borrowing the BTC or whatnot. But I don't see any kind of, sign in the data that low inscription are, having higher sales in the secondary.
You mean hold on, Dogfather, you mean collection number, correct? Because inscription numbers are in the 400,000.
No, I'm just talking about the collection number.
Yep.
So it's from 1 to 200 to 300, and just these 288 were sold. So that's the number I'm talking about. So the lowest collection number was 64, and this was not the highest sale so far. What we see in the data is that we are also not seeing very low collection numbers being sold, so they are more like diamond-handed. But it will be very interesting to see what's going on in the secondary.
Yeah, so right now the lowest listed on OpenSea is 34.5 ETH. There's about 10 listed all the way up to 77. I think also trying to figure out how to value these things. The only comparable thing which I've seen is people trying to compare it to like Fidenzas and art blocks. But this is a Bitcoin native collection, and now you're getting it priced in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you're being bifurcated between Emblem, between the Ethereum markets and then the Bitcoin markets, which I don't think any of them have sold on any of the Bitcoin markets yet. Maybe because those who won the winning bid just don't know how to experiment with the technology. maybe they're waiting. So I think there's more to it than just this idea of like fading Yuga. I think it's many of those who bought could just not be interested in selling as well. I mean, you have Leo bought 3. He's not a big Emblem Vault fan. He just doesn't use it, but he supports the technology. He believes in self-custody more than anything. And that's more than okay to do. And I assume there's probably a lot more people that have that kind of idea when it's purchasing, and it's not just ape holders who are buying these things.
Yep. Well, discoverability again, hype cycles, always really complicated. I think it was Dogfather who had the that really interesting chart. Was it Dogfather? I don't know. You should pin that chart up top where it gets into this idea of like what you purchased for and what it will sell for in the market and like where the value lies. And I think the main point being that Yuga is extracting so much value at mint that it's just really hard for the market to accept a whole lot more value than that. And I think what we're seeing here is actually the market's willing to accept less value. And so, the people who minted they're taking this like whatever 15 ETH bath on their mint price. And like you said, one guy lost a Bitcoin basically on the mint and is just getting out and taking his L. And it'll be interesting to see how it kind of grows over the next month or two, where these things sell and we actually get like a real floor on what they're worth. It's always fascinating to watch this stuff happen.
Mafika, what's good?
Yeah, a couple of things. And one thing I saw people were mentioning was around the quality of the images. So obviously, once inscribed, that's permanent. And I'm curious to hear from those in the know. Like, were there limitations around the quality of the image, or was this something that Yuga just missed and didn't consider, or what's the case there?
Adam, tell me your art critique on on 12 fold.
Dude, honestly, it's one of the weak points, I think, of their whole kind of strategy. They didn't really get into like the cool perspective. There may be a cool perspective of how these were generated, but I haven't seen it. And, I think that is a failure on their end to tell the story behind this, create the lore around how cool this was. I mean, I haven't seen anything, and it may be just it missed my feed, right? But why don't I know that these were based on, the mint, or when the person sent it in, it was based on their wallet address, and that was algorithmically generated this and XYZ. Why haven't I seen that? It may be there, but they haven't talked about it enough to create any kind of interest around that. And I think that's a mistake by them. I think that they're not really discussing this. I also think it's a mistake that these inscriptions don't have kind of an interesting place in Yuga's kind of lore. Like, why aren't these like preferred somethings, or you combine these with, your ape, and this gives you like super privileges? Like, none of that. This was just like, in that way, it just seems like a money grab. And I think that's a mistake from Yuga's perspective.
Oh, you didn't hear? If you take a 12 fold and then you breed it with an ape, and then you take it into the other side, you get like a mega coda.
See, now that makes sense. Like, I would love that. Like, you mix this with a coda and you get like coda special art, something like that. But this is what Yuga's actually good at. And it's surprising that at least tease it in a way. Like, yeah, we have something interesting planned for these in the future. That's all it would have required. But right now it's just, no, this is the art. Art is art. That's it. And for people, that doesn't create any sort of future excitement. And I think that's what you're seeing, which is like, well, this is not going to have any place in the Yuga environment going forward. What's that? I mean, and not even giving us the base level. Hey, this is why this is cool art. I have no idea why this is cool at all. And if I don't have any idea, most collectors don't have any idea. Right?
It's because it's in my bags. Before I hand it off to Dogfather, I want to say I'm not like, the art to me isn't bad. It does look like something I made in maybe elementary school, some macaroni and like a paintbrush.
or the beans. One of Leo's was like straight beans, bro.
Would I pay $60,000 for this? No. I'm also not like an art blocks collector. I know the art space is just not my game, so I completely stayed away from it. Maybe if it drops down to like 10 ETH, maybe consider it, just from like a value perspective. Or maybe I'll just go take some macaroni and throw it on my wall with some glue and paint over it and call it a day. Dogfather, what's going on?
Man, Adam, you're completely wrong. They had a very cool 18-second video on their website explaining everything in a lot of deep detail. I mean, Leo was sharing that. I was aware of that, so I was pinning that. If that is not answering every question, I don't.
was that like the creation one where they're showing the dots being made? I can't even remember which one. I might have seen
they show the Photoshop screen and that should be enough, man. Just throw the BTC. It's just 2.5. Don't be such a pain in the ass. That should be enough, man.
Oh boy, man, dude.
Don't expect a very thorough medium article, man. We're not in the HNFT area.
I know, and it's funny because actually they came out specifically and said this will hold basically no value in the Yuga metaverse. This will hold no value to anything we do in the future. And it's like, bro, how can you just put like the biggest kibosh on a project ever? Like, just tease it a little bit. And but they didn't. And hey,
I do think it leaves a good opportunity for Frank with his Bitcoin DeGods, an opportunity to even put himself in the same class as Yuga Labs, right? You come in and you guys have botched Bitcoin Mint. They're minting their Bitcoin dead gods at 0.444 Bitcoin, which I thought was overpriced. And then I realized that's the floor of DeGods. So he's doing it at basically floor mint. Maybe he has a better drop mechanic. He is working with Nick from Luxor Mining. I listened to that Spaces. And it seems like they put a lot of thought into how they want to do this. And Frank said that he's more focused on the secondary sales. And it sounds like they want to do it Bitcoin natively. I know Frank used to work for Swan Bitcoin, so he's been in the Bitcoin space for quite a long time. And if he has a successful mint where I think if one user loses funds and they immediately lose this conversation, right? And because nobody lost their funds, at least that are claiming from Yuga. So as long as all funds are safe and that there's some sort of secondary activity, I think this could put Frank in like a sort of classification with Yuga Labs from this botched opportunity.
Just really tough at the 0.44, man. I just, if it was 0.44 ETH, maybe we're talking about something, right? But 0.44 Bitcoin, God dang, man. I mean, it's just beyond the realm for most humans, right? It's just, even in the NFT space, which has a bunch of rich dudes, it's just at that number, man. It's like, gosh, that's a lot. It doesn't give a lot of room for running. I don't know. That's just my vibe, right?
Mafiko, 1261.eth.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and more as we talk more about ordinals, and specifically 12-fold. I'm starting to think that Yuga didn't actually have a clear customer in mind for this collection. When I think about it, like the generative art collectors on ETH, the really kind of the top tier ones, they really want to know who the artist is. I think it was Zomo or someone mentioned like who's the artist, like what as Adam mentioned, like what's the story behind this? Like that's a really important part of it. But also I think the format is really important. Like people kind of used to, there was a bit of miscommunication. It seems people were thinking that it was going to be like more diverse outputs in the sense of like 258 or etc. distinct pieces and not 12 within a similar kind of range. So I think there was a miscommunication there. And obviously like innovation is warranted and innovation should be encouraged. But I just think they missed the ball there on the communication, and it was an unfamiliar chain to people who actually mainly collect generative art. They didn't communicate in a way in which they're used to in terms of the story around the project and what's going on, and the format as well was not what people in that space are used to. So on all those three fronts, I think it just led to a underwhelming experience. And as Adam always says, like when you're in new mint, you want to make sure that your holders, they feel like they've gotten, I don't know what you say, Adam, like
just they feel richer the moment they mint.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that didn't happen, obviously, so no good.
I'd recently been reading a bunch of the critiques of Clone X, Moonbirds, and Doodles. Those are like 3 of the top 5 PFPs that are now down to below 4 ETH floor. And one of the main criticisms I had seen is that the users felt like customers more than community members, and that's why they were dumping their bags. And I mean, I haven't been a holder. I don't hold any of those 5. I had thought about it a few times. I thought it was hilarious that Poopy had said "floor and get the fuck out." I was like, that's as quotable as like Ken Devs do something. Like to me, that is the funniest shit ever. But it is in the mind of every founder. I guarantee you, every founder saying it. It's just not something you actually say to your community.
Well, haven't you heard they're not NFT projects anymore? I thought that was great from Doodles. And look, I get it from a founder's perspective, and to a degree, you all understand it. It's like, God, do I have to worry about the floor price all the time? But the reality is, yes, you do. You do. And that doesn't mean you buy your own project or anything like that, but you've got to be concerned. This is what people are interested in, right? A good number of your holders, if you have a 10K project, are always going to be interested in the floor price. That's it. That doesn't mean you have to change your entire strategy. Doesn't mean you have to like bend over backwards to encourage floor price for going up, but it does mean you have to deliver. And I think Moonbirds, with them canceling their, Moonbirds convention or whatever the heck they were going to do, like Kevin Rose made a mistake, period, full stop, made a mistake. He should have thrown down $1 million and they have the Moonbird stupid conference. Mm-hmm. But he didn't. And he made that mistake. And everybody was like, well, what the hell are you going to deliver for us then? If we don't have something cool as a community, like our own get together, you can't pull that off. We're out. And he got spanked. And I think he needs to change his strategy.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that happened. So it now leaves a huge void in the PFP community, but even broader, I think it leaves a huge void for an NFT classification to come step in and potentially be the contender. You have PFPs that have been de facto largest community by far. They're the, you know, they exacerbate hype culture. They are heavily integrated into trading culture. To me, I think memes seems to be like a very good contender. When you think of all the different categories that exist in NFTs, you have memes that are up and coming, right? They're like at least the recent bull trend, or this like open edition kind of meta with like Jack Butcher, and the token is the canvas, essentially, right? Token is the art. Right? He's kind of taking the same thing that the counterparty community has been doing for this whole time. Yeah, music NFTs are just still largely just not. They're still trying to figure it out. Gaming NFTs are still kind of there, right? I think that takes a lot more coordination to do. I do think in-game NFT community or economies will be a big thing in the future, though. Like, I think eventually all the degens are just going to be like, hey, I'm trading a Sappy Seals shirt in their Pixelverse for your shirt that's worth 100K or whatever. I like that CSGO. Did you see that CSGO skin that sold for 160K?
Yep.
It was the highest digital collectible sale in like a long time, and of course they don't own it. But for those users,
of course they don't own it. So awesome, man.
For them, they didn't give a fuck. I was doing some research on it of like what made it so valuable, and it was apparently the stickers on the gun. There's like 5 stickers on the gun that have some sort of like meaning that also makes it rare and personalized. So hey, I mean, if you're gonna play the game forever, then you know maybe a wealthy investment.
You better hope your account doesn't get banned for something. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about it before, that gaming is, it's so we are in the most incredible space that all this stuff is happening. It's gaming. NFTs obviously been fudded and are fudded currently by not all gamers, but, you know, 90% of gamers. But there's just so much opportunity there. It's, you know, we've talked about it before, and I've told people, look, I bought a bunch of different like Fortnite accounts. I got my kid to like organize this stuff. It was these shady like PayPal deals, right? Where I'm sending kids like $200 to buy their old account so that we have like these old skins on Fortnite. And the odds are 99.9% that these will never be worth anything. And I just spent money on nothing. But part of me thinks like eventually something will happen and Epic Games is going to have to come around and make these all NFTs. And if they do, boy, we got our bags packed, man. I got some of these old skins. Who knows, man? Who knows? So, you know, you never know what's going to be the next thing. Just like we couldn't see Ordinals coming. Like, you don't know what's going to be the thing that comes and just, bam, hits us all over the head. And it's like, oh my God, it's game on in the gaming space or in the music space. And that's super exciting to just see what's going to be next.
Fika, what are you thinking about the future of the NFT space? Who's taking the reins? And there's a handful of topics that just happened. So if you need to go back to something, please do.
So I think what I'm keeping a close eye on is membership first NFT collection. So, for example, Links DAO. So they literally just bought a golf course in Scotland, and they've been quite.
Oh, did that happen? Did they actually make that purchase?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so like 950,000 US. They put that money down, and yeah, they won the bid. So that's something there. And they were very, very clear in the beginning. It's like, this is a membership community. We're doing golfing. We're going to raise this funds, and we're going to buy a golf course.
Very cool.
And that's a, you know, utility, very, very clear messaging, and they've achieved that. So I feel like those kind of communities where it's like membership first, we're getting together, and also everyone can kind of participate in that way. That's a really interesting thing that I'm watching. Links DAO, another one called Pool Suite as well. This is more of a luxury-oriented membership club. Whereas I feel like a lot of the PFP projects have they went PFP first, and then they're now trying to do the membership thing as an additional. But it just doesn't seem to be working. And obviously the PFP holders, because they spend so much money on the PFP, are justifiably disgruntled. So that's just something I think will be interesting especially when we talk about utility, which I do think will be an important part of the space. It's just not something that's been executed on well at the moment. But I think also long term, the notion of gaming, I do think gamers are coming around. Like as I spend lurking on different Reddit pages and stuff, I think slowly but surely games are coming around to this idea of, if I earn something in the game, and it's all, I used to play World of Warcraft. It's like, yeah, like we all know the value of digital objects. Anyone who's played an online game knows the value within the game, but it's like, why can this just be taken away without my consent, or I get banned and it's like all of a sudden I don't have it? So
Yep.
I think they'll come around in the future for sure, and that's going to be more likely a Web 2 company launches a really big game than a Web 3 company makes it to to the mainstream.
Yeah, really hard to make a game successful. Easier to make a game that's already successful and turn it into like NFT style. I think I tweeted back to him because I think it's Dr. Disrespect, right? Big time streamer and gamer, is into NFT. He's like, we're doing it. We're moving forward with NFTs. And if you just look him up on Twitter, bro, the amount of hate that dude gets for trying to like bring his followers into Web3 is tremendous. But he's a fucking badass, and he hits them right in the face. And I think he's going to be proven correct. It's just a matter of time. On that Links DAO thing, did they ever sell NFTs against Links DAO, or they just raised as a DAO and move forward that way?
It looks like they had NFTs. I just had to look. Yeah, I think they sold NFTs initially, and they've held up quite well in terms of floor price. So I'm not sure what the mint was, but the lowest is like 0.26, I think. They're now 0.47 or 0.76 or something of that nature.
And those NFTs give you like playtime or something on the course, basically something like that?
Yeah. Different tiers, different membership perks. Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, I've seen ones geared towards like buying a football team. I don't know if those ever kind of came to fruition. We've talked about it in the Realms of Ether. And I'm still like, bro, I know it could work. Like, because Realms of Ether, it's like we're buying an in real life castle. And I think, I don't know, at last check, it was like, I don't know, 30 ETH or something they have in the treasury. I'm like, bro, let's just do, like, we called them sandcastle NFTs. Yep. But it was like, dude, it creates something in real. Like, if we bought an in real life castle and ran it as an Airbnb, I mean, I know there are technical challenges from like a legal standpoint and stuff like that, but it feels like those could be overcome, and there is some opportunity. So I'm going to look back into the Links DAO thing and see if we can move that forward a little.
Bro, if you guys did a castle for Realms, man, that would be like insane.
Dude, I think it would be. I do. Like, and they're, castles are like, they're all over the place. You can buy them. They're not that expensive, right? And it's like, if you, just for the fun of it, just to say like, look, here's the castle, and people could go visit it. And it's in the middle of France or whatever. Like, I just think we could get a lot of eyeballs just doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing, because I gotta go. I gotta get some rest. I was gonna say, Pool Suite, the other one I mentioned, they're looking at buying like a manor. Some kind of like Italian villa or something as well. So I do think that could be the next wave after, and I agree with Jake, after memes. But yeah, I gotta go, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother.
See him if you go. Maybe we should just turn Realms of Ether just into like a castle landlord. We just buy a bunch of castles just to flip them, right? Turn it.
Bro, I love the meme. I love it's what the Realms guys. I mean, and obviously they've fallen off because you lose interest and stuff over time, but the whole like King of the Castle meme with like Borat or whatever, I'm king of the castle, like it's just it got me excited anyway. I love it.
With that collection, because it's only 500, you have to issue like a smaller tier to make that community larger. This was an issue with like the Twitter eggs DAO that I was in, is that the collection was only 277, and then the DAO, which you had to pay to get into, was only like 40 people, and it just fizzled out. There's just not enough people in there, like raising a fuss, whether they're fudding or providing some sort of information or something. It just became desert. Just no one was responding to anything, and then eventually it lies on the shoulder of like a few people.
Yeah, it's
You
really
just get
hard.
burnt out. You get burnt the fuck out. It's
Really
just
hard. I mean, even with like 10K is this kind of amazingly magical number. And I think, to give Larva Labs, just those guys, so much credit for somehow realizing that it's a really special number. Like it's a large enough community where core people kind of who are active, you have a large enough kind of active group to maintain something. It's for whatever reason, that is just kind of this magical number. I mean, of course, it's always going to be just a handful of guys who really move the ball forward, but to have that kind of like vibrant community, 10K is just a magic number.
yeah, it really is. So I guess we could propose this one final question at the end here is, if you're starting an NFT project, what is your, or how do you introduce those NFTs? Is it the form of an avatar as a PFP? Is it in the form of a name service like ENS or BNS? Is it in the form of a membership that you do? Do you start with memes? What do you do in today's world? It feels like the introduction through PFPs is kind of fading. It does seem like the membership thing is starting to increase. Maybe because it's more aligned with reality. Everyone wants to have a membership. You have a membership to your gym. You have a membership to Costco, right? You have a membership to things that you don't even use, that you use like once a year, right? Like everyone has like 3 or 4 different like airline memberships that you use maybe like once a year. And maybe because you can have like a cheaper floor. If you're paying your gym $20 a month, right? And here you're just like, you pay $100, right? And that gets you in for lifetime, right? Or you turn it into a subscription or something like that. Seems like that's kind of where the attention's going. What do you think, Adam?
Man, I know this. Attention is really hard, right? And it is the currency today. And as we move more and more into creator economies, this idea of attention and getting it and keeping it, maintaining it, dude, we're going to be talking about this for the next 2 decades. Like this is everything. And how you maintain that, it's really delicate. I mean, we saw it just talking about Moonbirds is still not fresh on my mind. It's like, it's very easy for it to go away. And if you screw with your community or screw them over, or just the perception that you're screwing them over, that attention goes away fast. And so it's very important for founders to think about this very carefully. And, you really are maintaining in the same way the streamer is maintaining those eyeballs. As a founder of an NFT project, you are maintaining those eyeballs in the same way. And it's super easy to just lose it.
Dogfather, what's the best way to enter the NFT space if you're going to be a project founder?
That's why we also like the historical NFTs, right? They don't have to deliver anything. They're just there. They're old. And you can build the community around them as well, right? You can have your gate communities and do everything in terms of utility like newer projects, but you still have all these provenance and scarcity. And for newer projects, that's way harder because you compete with all the new ones, and there are like thousands of that. Yep. I know you're now doing this hospitality thing, which is really cool, and really looking forward to that, because that was something, Adam Levine was, introducing or trying to introduce almost 10 years ago. And now you do that again in the new world. That's really, really cool. I have the impression that it's the big guys, the very big projects that can do that have all the resources, the Gary Vee's and the Yugas and the like. Yep. And for, smaller teams and smaller projects, that's super hard because they compete with the big guys, and they may find a niche. That's typically in economics or in business. It's like there are 2 strategies. One, you're big and you grab the whole market and you provide something unique, like a very low price on some product or the highest quality, or you go into a niche. And I think if you start a new project, you need to find a niche because you're never big enough.
Yep.
Right. I mean, even Meta was now falling, right? I mean, and they have a few bucks to spend.
Sure.
Find a niche where you don't compete with the big guys, and then you build your brand. And I think that's the only way to go.
I think you're absolutely right. Now that the NFT cat is out of the bag, Kind of the people who are early become these like macro kind of companies. And then if you're new to it and you're not necessarily late, right? But you have to be a niche. When I had started my podcast 3 years ago, I started out as literally just a Las Vegas entrepreneur show because I was like, hey, there's nobody doing this and I can grow my brand. After 2 years, it moved into a crypto show, and now it's moving outwards into like a tokenized show, right? Which is kind of similar to like what Adam tried to do. And so I went into it. I'm going into it kind of with like a 5-year kind of mindset, but also being prepared that, you know, you have no idea how these things could go. They could blow up any second, but I don't think you should ever go in with those intentions that something is going to blow up. Because as we see through all these, the faster a collection blows up, the faster it comes right back down. You need to have that strong foundation. From a founder perspective, when it is slow, though, it does hurt. I mean, Adam and I talked about this on a Spaces recently. You're literally just building like to yourself. You're just doing it when no one's paying attention.
Yep, absolutely. It is. It's part of being a creator too. And whether you make YouTube videos or whatever, you have to do. I've always been of the mindset you have to do it for basically no one. And then I think if you're able to grab an audience, or in the case of a project, if you've sold out or whatever, you have to still work with that same mindset of always be serving those holders of yours and continue to build. But I think Dan's got your hand up. What's up, Dan?
Yeah, we'll close it out here with Dan. Dan is a multi-project founder. What do you think? What's the best way to enter the space as a founder?
I always like the format that's more popular in Counterparty than other blockchains, around having community-generated art collections where the project founders act more like curators. That's like a rare Pepe move. So what we did with Bighorn. That makes your community sort of like the community. There's like the creators of all the art within the community, and then their audiences, and it's sort of like a lot of micro artists like under one banner, and there's a lot of like heterogeneity in that versus like one homogenous collection. I think that's always interesting. I think there's a real opportunity right now with ordinals for curation. I think there's a lot of value to be added with curation as we roll over 500,000 inscriptions and on our way to like millions. I think curating within that is going to be a big value add, so that's like maybe an interesting entry point for people. And I think curation is really the main point I wanted to bring up. And like with the Dan files that I made, I made one collection for ordinals. I'm calling it the Dan files, and then within that, I have sort of like 10 subsets that are like different media, different themes. I think that's also maybe an interesting way to keep yourself open to like new possibilities. Just like I'm big into high conviction bets, but there's ways to maybe like to not pigeonhole yourself in one direction either, by exploring like different technologies, different issuance amounts, different media, different mediums, if that makes sense. That's where I would curation and variability or something like that, or like that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Having this like decentralized or kind of like open format, you essentially get multiple founders, right? And you kind of garner their communities as well. The interesting component, which I've been kind of learning as I've been rolling out my project, is the more in depth and the more intricacies that you add, the harder it is to capture that attention, because you go more into complexities and less simplicities. So you have to be kind of innovative in the way that you grab those attentions and the way that you display. I think a bunch of founders don't give themselves enough time, where when you create a project, and this is just in the real world too. For example, use a podcast. The average podcast only lasts 7 episodes. For me, it took me, when I started my podcast, it took me almost 4 to 6 months to reach that first spike of attention. And most people just really give up on themselves because they think that attention is going to last throughout.
Attention, as we know, does not last. It's really, really hard, man. And capturing that attention when it is hot is one of the, I think, key things for founders to work on, which is like when you have it, what do you do with that attention? It's a challenge, man, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely is. Well, I'm gonna close it out here. I appreciate everyone for coming in and joining. Glad we got some new guests, some new voices. Dogfather, the regular, you're the man. XE Pinata, you're the OG. Love what you're doing. Congrats on your success. Dan, thanks for joining us, man. I can't wait to get a Bitcoin curated collection at some point, man. I've dove into that collection. It's kind of hard to find because there's so many cards with small supplies, but getting that there is or on OpenSea will be very pivotal because some of those cards are hilarious. The Kanye corn one is one of my favorites. I have to say, very, very awesome. Appreciate everyone, man. It's Friday, so go out and if it's nighttime, go out, go touch some grass. Maybe go touch a cavern or a bar or a pub, whatever you call it, whatever part of the country or the world that you're in. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Take care, man.